morning. One of the topical issues being reflected in the papers is the issue of fake news. Specifically, this time around, the Asiwaju Tinubu camp has written to the, key contender for the presidential election, talking about Obi now, the Labour Party's presidential candidate. Of course, Tinubu has said and accused or urged, so to speak, the Obi side now to reflect more on issues and not to propagate fake news. There were a number of articles that were said to be written from the Ghanaian president allegedly asking Asiwaju Tinubu to step down and take care of his health. Well, that has since, been denied by the Ghanaian president, and a host of other reports that have been said to emanate from Obi supporters.
Yes, the report was quite disturbing. We got to the extent of saying that the Ghanaian president, Nana Akufo-Addo, had written a letter to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu asking him to step down because of his health and allow Obi to take over. And then there was another story too that was also very disturbing, which says that former Lagos State Governor Ambode was asked by Asiwaju Tinubu to give him 50 billion naira a month and so on and so forth. And he has traced this to one news.com or something like that, which was found out to be a Biafran site. So he said that itself links that news to Biafran people, the agitators as IPOB, and that these people are actually becoming a very crucial part of Obi's fan base. And so he's asking Obi to hold them to account and to stop this tendency not only to false news, but essentially heating up the polity. And Obi has replied and said, no, that I don't have anything to do with them, and it's wicked to link me up with them, and so on. And yes, we should face issues. But Obi has not really come out to condemn what was done. That is what is up there. So Obi must come out and condemn what has been written, what those things have done, because those things are fake news. Lagos was not even earning 50 billion naira a month during the time of Ambode. And Ghanaian president has said, I have nothing to do with those letters. That is what we are saying. I was here just a few days to debunk somebody who went to another another television station to describe me as a man who carried a goat and put paper around the neck and said, my name is Jonathan. And it was clear that that was not my face. This is the kind of thing that we should watch against going into this election, because if people are irate and irresponsible and ride cargoes of lies against other candidates when the campaigns have not been flagged off, we should be careful.
Right.
And candidates should be careful not to allow, by wink or by nod, their candidates, their followers, to get out of whack. Because once that happens, the consequences are there for the polity. So security forces should be alert to all kinds of miscreants who may want to take advantage of the political situation and their partisan positions to inflame passions against other people. Yeah. Because the election is supposed to be for everybody, and nobody has a monopoly of fan base. Right. Nobody has a monopoly of rhetoric. Nobody has a monopoly of resources. Nobody has a monopoly of wisdom in this.
Absolutely. And in fact, nobody has monopoly of mischief.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But the point there is, we don't even need mischief.
Yes.
In the last election, we've seen the issue of fake news has been on the front burner. In 2019, we saw all of those. In fact, all elections, we see these things. But the dimension for this one now, we're going to see, or we've begun to see the deliberate twisting of story. In fact, fabrication, which boils down to the crux of what they call disinformation. This one, we sit down and cook something. It doesn't exist, but let us cook it and put it out there to mislead people. The point there is, when you read these things, you know that a sitting president of another country cannot write a letter to a candidate and say you should step down for that. That's meddling into domestic issues of another country. And in fact, the president of Ghana knows so well that he can't
it's a no-no.
It's a no-no. No president would do anything like that.
Interfere in another nation's
Interfere in another country's political domestic affairs. They don't do that. So if you're hearing that alone, anybody who is media literate enough will know it's a
you know,
and that's the difference.
That's
And
difference.
that's the difference.
we are dealing with a situation, a potential mob situation. So that is why we have to be careful. Anything can act like throwing raw meat into the cage of a lion. You know, that kind of thing. So we have to be careful.
Yes.
This kind of thing almost happened in the United States during the election between McCain and Obama, where the people were trying to use racial catcalls against Obama. McCain had to intervene and say, look, Obama is a good human being. He had to bring sanity into it. That is what Obi should do now, before things get out of hand.
Yes, I think it is incumbent on a candidate whom your name is used to campaign. Of course, you're going to get supporters, you're going to get detractors and all of that. You're going to benefit from some, others are going to be liabilities onto you. But all of that, you have to be able to melt it down and then take responsibility for all of those. If people are using your name to cause destruction, you should be able to say, no, let us not do that. I appreciate those who are supporting me. And of course, I thank all of you. But when it gets beyond what campaigns should look like, you should know how to draw the lines.
And this talking about lines,
and this is not just about Obi. It should go to all candidates,
across board,
whether it is governorship, whether it is Senate, whether it's House of Rep or House of Assembly, as the case may be. Because let us keep the system sane so that we can all come out and express what we want. And what is important is, if your candidate has what it takes, just push and campaign for your candidate. Leave what the other person is not doing or is doing. Use all the time and energy to push forth what we should know about your candidate. Absolutely. That is how to sell political candidacy.
We are, of course, living in the times where, I want to believe that a majority of us can relate with the destructions that were associated in the aftermath of the NSAS protests. We saw how that played out. We also saw the rise and the impact of fake news. Even what triggered that particular edition of NSAS protests even ended up coming out as untrue. The fact that SAS operatives allegedly, killed someone in Rivers State turned out to be false, as the boy didn't die. Well, that in that context of his death, of course, not discountenancing the excesses of security operatives and all that, the brutality associated with their work. But sometimes, of course, that is also on one hand. But then we saw the dangers of extreme dangers of fake news. That has so, and as journalists, we've also seen that there is a thin line between fake and genuine news. We see journalists, rushing to the press, bringing up a story which which turns out to be false, and people are watching, people are reading, people are running with these messages, and it really is dangerous.
The danger will be mainstream media being caught up in that web.
Yes.
And that was part of what Sam was saying earlier. Because everybody knows that media stations that are licensed, that have regulators, have what they call self-censorship. So it is expected that if I'm watching any mainstream media, they would have sieved through and then verify.
There is a process.
There's a process.
Absolutely. Before news comes out.
Before we even watch it on TV or listen to it on radio or goes to the print.
So when it is on,
Yeah, exactly.
when it's on, and you know that this thing has to be interrogated,
You can.
you go in.
You can
immediately
step
Exactly.
in,
and
right?
examine.
Either,
You handle it.
absolutely,
Yeah,
either,
handle it.
or
Yeah,
even if,
exactly.
and if you have to retract, you
You ask the
retract.
right
But
question.
But that
Exactly.
opportunity is lost now
Yeah.
for the other kind of media that we see.
So I think media stations have to do more with the
Right.
issue of gatekeeping. And going into the election, from what we're seeing so far, we have to do more to try to debunk so many of the mischief that is going out there.
Absolutely, Mike.